Hello and welcome to Harmony in the Hustle. I'm your host, Angela Vassallo, and it's awesome to have you here today. Whether you are walking around listening to this podcast, or whether you're listening to it in the car, or you might even be watching this on YouTube, wherever you are, welcome. And today's episode is all about my second part of the framework, my next chapter method. And this is a program that I came up with recently, and it's something that I have been very passionate about. And I've been talking a lot about this over the last year, all about your next chapter, your pivoting in your career, your second act, whatever you want to call it. But I like to call it the next chapter. And the next chapter is all about a method and a framework that I have created. And this is actually an opportunity for you to be able to step out of where you are right now and think of what could be. What could be next for me if I decided to, make a change, if I decided to, pivot in my career, if I decided to start that business, if I wanted to finally achieve something great in my life or do something different. This is for you. This episode is for you. Last week, I spoke all about the first part of my framework, which was called the pause. And I actually like to call it the stirring. So it's this stirring of knowing that there's something that you want to achieve, or there's something that you want to do, or something's not aligned with you anymore. And you start to have that stirring inside you. Have you ever had that? And I ask this to women all the time because it's that knowing that something needs to change, and you're not happy where you are right now, or maybe things have come to an end, or it's like, it's just boring now. You need to move on to the next thing, and that can happen. And that's okay. And that is very, very common, especially for women in their 40s and 50s. I'm 52, and I actually pivoted out of my career when I was 51, and I started a whole new chapter, and I help other women now do the same. So the second part of my framework, when we spoke about the pause last week's episode, this week I want to talk about the pivot. Now, the pivot is the most important part, because this is where you start to figure out what exactly you want to do. If you did pivot, if you did make a change, if you did decide that you wanted more out of your life, this is the time. This is the time to actually begin to think, what could I do if I actually pivoted? And when you do pivot, it's not about a massive big change. It's not about all the big things that you believe that you need to do. Pivoting can just be small little changes. When you do the small changes, that can create the big shifts in your life. And that's what happened for me, because in the beginning, I just had one foot in where I was and one foot in the other thing. And I knew that by doing that, it started to give me some options. It started to give me some ideas of what could be possible if I did look at changing my life and career pivoting. So this episode is a very, very important part. I believe that the 4-part framework that I go through, all of them are just important as the other. But I think the pivoting part is probably one of the most important parts out of all of them. And it's about leveraging, and it's also about leveraging your experience. And, I've said it many times. It's my quote that I always use in all of my content. It's about, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And that means you're starting from your life lessons over the last so many decades, skill sets, everything that you've been through. You bring all of that to the table. That experience is invaluable. That's who you are. That's your unique, if you want to call it your unique USP, that's yours. Your intellectual property, everything that you've been through, that's unique to you. And that, my friend, is invaluable. So let's get started. So the pivot is where clarity meets courage, because it takes courage to pivot. I know, trust me, I know. I've been there. It takes courage to think about what's possible. And could I do this? Or I really want to, achieve a certain thing, but fear's holding me back. So it's where clarity starts to meet your courage. So you might already be feeling this tug. This tug towards something else. So I spoke about the stirring, but even further than that, you might be feeling like this definitely isn't aligning with me anymore. I need something different. And now it's about moving forward and searching for that alignment. I call it this magical, mythical word, alignment, right? It's what we all strive for in our life. I believe it's our duty, and it's why we're here to find out what we're meant to do, what aligns with us, and really go after our full potential. Because once you have alignment, you know that you're working towards your highest potential. And the signs that you might be in the pivoting phase are these. So you know you need a change. You know that there's something there. It's stirring. You're feeling a little bit uncertain. You know that you want to start taking the first steps, but you don't know where or you don't know how. You might be feeling like you're caught between comfort and calling, right? So when we are here, we feel like where we are right now, it's comfortable, it's safe, it's what I know, but I'm called for something else, right? But we want to stay in our comfort zone because once we know outside of our comfort zone, it stretches us. It's uncomfortable. That's where the pain is. But that, my friend, is where the growth is as well. So we know that it's a safety place and we know that it's what we know versus the pull of something new, right? And at all times, I challenge you to just get out of that place of safety and think, be pulled. Pull yourself to something new. What if? Pull yourself to what if. And you might even be stuck into this overthinking, right? And trust me, I know that. Analysis paralysis, overthinking things, drowning in self-doubt, worried about, what if it all goes wrong? What if people say things? Will my family be happy? Will my friends judge me? And wondering, is it worth all the effort? Is it worth all of these things that will probably actually happen? And look, I can't answer that for you. All I can say is that if you feel like you need a change, if you feel like something doesn't work for you anymore, I encourage you to go deeper, to look outside of that and ask yourself, if I did pivot, what would I want to do? And I really believe the pivot matters. This is where you are in this time of your life, and it's your prime. Like stats have come out now. Forbes just did a whole story on it, and they've just said and they've announced just recently that women are achieving more in their 40s and 50s and starting businesses more than ever before. We are succeeding more in our 40s and 50s. Napoleon Hill wrote a book about it. And he said in that book, he said that most successful people become successful and wealthy in their 40s and 50s. It's many reasons why, but one of them is because of the experiences that you have and all the life knowledge that you have. And it's like, you're not, that, if you get knocked down, that you're going to be able to get back up. You learn because you've been through so much already. You know that you can trust yourself, that you've got the confidence to get up and keep moving forward. So just know that you've already gone through so much as it is. So of course you can do this. Of course you could think about a possible change. So you want to redefine where you are right now. Redefine success for yourself. So look at your life and you think, okay, am I happy where I am? Do I feel successful? If you're redefining success for you, you want to be able to redefine success on your terms, not on anyone else's, not your family's, not your bosses, not what your degree was and what you think that you had to be doing along the way. It's about what actually works for you, redefining success on your terms. And pivoting will help you to become unstuck and also help you to move through something that no longer serves you. So once you do take the time to think about it, it's like, does this serve me anymore? And what you want to be working through, and it's what we do through our framework, is we get you to break down these old belief patterns that you have, this thought pattern that you can be, it's like a default position that you can fall back into. And it's like an identity shift that you'll literally have to be able to move forward into a completely different next chapter. But it's really, really exciting because letting go of all the old beliefs and all the worries and concerns and judgments and what people have labeled you and what they think that is right for you, once you let go of all those old beliefs, all those old habits, and you start to shift identities, like you literally have an identity shift, everything starts to change. That's where the magic starts. That's where you go, wow, look how far I've come. Okay. So you should literally be having this pivot at this stage in your life. If you're in your 40s and 50s, it's good to actually have that because you want to be getting rid of all the old stuff that doesn't serve you anymore. You want to get rid of all the default, stuff that just keeps, you're falling back to that doesn't serve you. It's really, really important to be doing that. And also about consciously choosing who you want to become because you're in the becoming stage. You're becoming, when you're stepping into your next chapter, you're becoming the next version of yourself. And I believe it's the best version of yourself. This part of our lives is the best version because we've let a lot of stuff go and we don't worry about as much stuff as what we used to. So this is your prime. This is your best part of your life. So I want you to ask yourself this question: what's no longer working in my life, and am I willing to let it go? There might be a number of things that is not working. It could be a certain relationship. It could be friendships. It could be your business that you own. It could be the job that you're in. And have you outgrown it? Do you feel you might have outgrown it, or it's time to just move on? It doesn't have to be a massive thing. You know, identity shifts can be very, very small. They can be very, very minor, and but they can make massive, big change in your life. And think about if judgment and fear was removed, what would you actually do? Where would you pivot? If you weren't worried about what anyone said or what anyone thinks or the fear of failure, what would you do? Where would you pivot? So think about that. And also the power of what if. I always say, if you're asking the question, won't it be great when, ... or what if I could do this, ... What is the what if? What is it the great, won't it be great when? They're usually your prompts to tell you that that's your calling. That's what you want to do next. And we don't have to overthink these things because usually you already know what your next step is, what you want to do, and what lights you up, what aligns with you. So imagine the best case scenarios rather than the worst case scenarios, because a lot of people can start to this point and then they think, oh, won't it be great when? And what if? And then they start going down the road of, no, never going to happen. No way that would ever happen. Like that. Because what would happen is if this would come in or that would happen or somebody would say this, there's no way I could do that. I don't have the skill set. I don't have that. And all this stuff starts to play out, right? And that's the stuff that holds you back. But if you sort of pushed all of that aside and started focusing on best case scenarios, what a concept. What is the best case scenario for me rather than focusing on the worst case scenario? Call it the glass half full, glass half empty. If you are a person who has a tendency to think like that, like worst case scenarios, start to train your mind to change. Start to think differently. Because you weren't born like that, okay? That's just a habit. That's just a pattern that you created in your life. You weren't born like that. You know, nobody waved a magic wand over your head and said, hey, you're going to be somebody that has, a mindset of just seeing the glass half empty all the time. No, that wasn't what happened to you. You are somebody that is in control of your mind, and you can work on that. It's a muscle, and you can work on it, and you can change it at any time. Also think of what if this setback is actually setting me up for my biggest breakthrough I've ever had in my life. So if you've had setbacks in your life, what if this is your time? You are being set up for a comeback. You're being set up for a breakthrough. I've always thought like that. I've always been a positive person. Trust me, I've had my days where I don't, but I mean, most of the time, majority of the time, I will see the best case scenario. And, maybe to a fault at times. Maybe I've had rose-colored glasses. My husband used to say, Angela, your rose-colored glasses aren't just your average glasses. He used to say they were those big clown glasses because I used to see everything ridiculously with rose-colored glasses. I've learnt, no, life is not always like that. Sometimes you'll get knocked on your ass, and trust me, I have many, many times. And then you become a little bit more realistic about life. But the scenario was, I've spoken about it many, many times about when I left my restaurants and I started to pivot. It was a very, very uncomfortable situation for me. However, I knew that this just did not align with me anymore. Being an entrepreneur in the hospitality industry, I wanted out. I knew I had a bigger calling. I knew I wanted to help women become the best version of themselves. I knew I wanted to speak on big stages. I knew I wanted to make more of a difference and an impact in the world. So that's why I forced myself outside of my comfort zone and I started to move forward, just taking baby steps, one day at a time. I ended up getting a lot of good people around me where I could invest in their programs and learn from them. So I looked around and I picked the women that I thought were the ones that I should be following, the ones that had already achieved what I wanted to achieve. So then I invested in their programs because people who pay attention. So I paid to learn. And then I invested. Once you invest that money, then you learn faster because you're paying attention. So the best advice I can give anyone is if they're wanting to, do something, find somebody who is already doing what you want to do in that field and learn from them. If you have to pay them to learn from them, do that and get around the best people. When I wanted to learn how to do a podcast, I learned from one of the best in the business. When I wanted to learn how to do an online course, I learned. When I wanted to, become better at branding and online social media stuff, I went to one of the best in the business. When I wanted to be a keynote speaker, I got some of the best keynote speaker trainers around me. So invest in yourself, okay? And then that's where you'll start to get results. But you need to figure out, firstly, what the pivot is. And then you start to step into that as well. And it's been the best thing I ever did. It's completely changed my life. I've achieved some of these things that I wanted to. Obviously, I've got a big goals and visions of where I want to go. I feel like I'm kind of only really just getting started. However, I've been able to do those things because I didn't have all the belief in the beginning, but I started to trust myself. And the more and more that I put myself out there, the more that I had more confidence and the more that I was actually seeing that this is possible. I can do it. And if you see something in someone else that you admire, just know whatever you're seeing in that person that you admire, you also have in yourself as well. And I learned that from a mentor many, many years ago. She said that to me. So I never forgot it. And just believe that what you're seeing in someone that you admire, whatever skill set that is or whatever they're doing that you admire in them, the reason why you're admiring it, because it's also in you. So pivoting, it's a big part of my framework. I've only just touched the surface of it today in this podcast. However, what I am going to do is my gift to you. I am going to be running a masterclass in June, and I'm going to be going right through the 4-part framework. And I encourage you to come along. There'll be like-minded women there. We'll be going deep into the actual framework. We'll be figuring out what your pause is, what your pivot is, your next chapter, the framework all around that. And I'll take you right through all that. And you'll learn so much. You'll learn a lot about yourself. You'll meet like-minded women online, and you'll see that other women there are in the same position as you who are ready to really step into the next chapter and own it and have more joy, more abundance, more success, more of everything, because it's just there waiting for you. So the link is going to be in the show notes, and I encourage you to click on it and save yourself a seat, because it's going to be an awesome event, and I want to see you there as well. So I hope this episode was of value to you. And if it was, I'd really love you to share it with someone else who would really love it too. And also subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so you stay in the loop when I'm always putting out my episodes. I really want you to stay, because next week I'll be going into the 3rd part of this framework too. And I really encourage you, if you really enjoyed today, to give me a 5-star review. I would love that. A review is fantastic. That's amazing. It really helps the girl out, and then she can just keep building her business from there. So I really, really encourage you guys, click the link, save your seat, come along to the next part of this, the next chapter, and it's going to be an amazing masterclass, and I really want to see you there. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Have a great day. So much for tuning in to another episode of Harmony in the Hustle. I hope today's episode filled you with inspiration, gave you some tips you can turn into action, and helped you find a little more harmony in your life. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend who could use a bit more harmony in their hustle too. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you can stay updated with all the upcoming episodes. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen. And until next time, stay in the harmony, and remember, you've got this. See you next time.